Good evening and welcome to the March 2023 Omaha Linux Users Group. I'm your fill-in host this evening, John. Dave couldn't make it tonight. So tonight, Bruce is going to be doing a presentation on hypervisors. I believe that's correct. We have a room full of folks here. We got some folks in the Zoom as well. We got some announcements coming up. Kernel Con is in April. Do we know when in April? Is that the first weekend?
It's like
the 21st? Oh, that's a Friday. Oh, that's weird. Oh, so it's also Earth Day in Omaha on the 22nd. Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. Omaha. Some cities do it differently. Let's see what else is there. Oh, Nebraska CERT has is it lunch?
Yeah.
Coming up? What day is that?
Tuesday after next, so the 15th.
15th.
Department of Homeland Security guys are gonna be there.
That's next Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday after.
Oh yeah. Okay. Today's Tuesday. Thank you. Third Wednesday. That's right. We started. First was on a Wednesday. And you said the Homeland Security folks are going to be there, eh?
Yes.
Wow. At Johnny's Cafe.
Yes. John Connect the House coming up. Another site another group that rejected my paper. They're also in April.
Does Johnny still do the little colored tags for lunch? Yeah. I can't get away. As long as it takes me to drive somewhere, I have to turn around and drive back for lunch from work. I'm not like some of my coworkers who are a little bit more leniency. Let's see. Any other? Oh, you said new version of Armbian is out. That's correct. That's cool. Which one? 6.3 release kernel candidate coming up. Every time I move this microphone, does it make any difference in the noise on the remote, folks?
No, it sounds great.
Oh, this is a wonderful $28 microphone.
It is so far.
It's a toner, the brand. I actually bought 2 of these. I had the one for when I was traveling. And then I bought another one for a friend because we went right into pandemic and we were doing remote stuff with schools. And every time he was on video, it'd be like, I'm like, dude, I'm buying you a microphone. And then we left, he gave it back to me. So, which allowed me to give mine to another person. So they have a nicer microphone. What else can I do to stretch time for Bruce?
We need more speakers.
We need more speakers. That's a good point.
Next month,
we've got the AI chat panel, right? Or what they call them, large language models, I believe. You only heard rumors. If there was only a spreadsheet that we could reference for our speakers. That's true. It was it was a different tab for a year, wasn't it?
I did, and he just changed the tab.
Okay. Oh, I know LibreOffice 7.5. No, is it 7? 7.5.1's out. Yeah, they have a dark mode now, but they added a switch in 0.5 or 0.1.
Experience on top.
Oh wow!
You can yeah. I think it's a button. Yes, you can.
You can turn it on and off. Well, okay. Because it always helps to hide all your controls.
Yes.
That's like when people get a new phone, they don't know everything how it works.
That's worked for no one for years. Are you using that? Not anymore.
That's what extensions are for. Gosh.
But if you wanted to speak it at OLUG, you could talk to you.
You can talk to Dave. You can mention it on the mailing list, olug.org. Has information on that, as well as the Discord server. There's some discussions in there as well. So it's always fun. Phoronix does a lot of testing. I want to look up to see how their Intel graphics card tests have gone. I mean, by default, I'm pretty much buying an NVIDIA card anyway, but I'd rather have something I don't have to remember to install the drivers on every time. Although it hasn't been too bad.
Oh, just you do, Bo. Yeah,
No, when I redid my Mythbox in like the fall of 2020, I went to a Ryzen 5 with the graphics, and it was like so easy to do and install. I was really happy with that experience. It's like I went from a Core 2 Duo to a Ryzen 5. It was pretty wild. Hey, Bruce, you ready to start your presentation?
Hey, sure am.
Awesome. Take it away.
Alrighty. Well, I said that a little prematurely, but give me 1 second here.
Hey, what else could we do? Intel graphics, yes. Discrete graphics is what they call that. Yeah.
Oh.
Hmm.
Anyway, I didn't have any issues setting up.
Well, I'm thinking about the new ARC series from Intel.
Is Intel
For their driver, yes.
so U equals
So
drivers?
a lot of the work that they did do was like libv2pow for the video acceleration to enable it for their, because like the driver in X was like i915 for such a long time. My wife has a little Gigabyte bricks, those little cube things. She uses her Chromebook more now these days, any day, but that had a 915 based system, and I was trying to use it. And Intel actually had their own repository for Fedora to do the installs, but it didn't like go every time we upgraded to the new version. So like it was great for 3 or 4 months. And then the new version would come out and be like, okay, gonna disable this for a while, and maybe they'll. So, I mean, yes and no, it's hard to say.
Intel sneaking their old software patches in there for their software metered license type thing, software lock on your chips kind of. So.
Yeah. Let's see, can I, oh, he started his screen sharing.
I'm good to go.
You're good to go?
I hope so.
All righty. I'm gonna mute myself too.
All right. So XCP-NG, it's a hypervisor. XCP stands for Zen Cloud Platform Next Generation. Today we're going to introduce you to it. We're not going to get too deep unless you want to, but mostly try to keep it high level. I've used the predecessor Zen Server, Citrix, and XCP-NG in production for over a decade now, both at a couple of places of employment as well as at home. So what is a hypervisor? Well, there's two types of hypervisors, a type 1 and a type 2. Type 1 hypervisor is made to run on bare metal, which is what we're using with XCP-NG. And then type 2 hypervisor is made to run on top of your operating system. So if you're running a Mac and you need to run something Windows, you would run a Windows, something like Parallels or VMware to do hypervising of the virtual machine of some kind of Windows box. And so a hypervisor creates and runs virtual machines, VMs. Sometimes they're called virtual machine monitors, or VMM. Uses a virtualization layer between the OS and the hardware. What is a virtual machine or VM? Virtual machines are emulations of a computer hardware environment. The hypervisor isolates the operating system and hardware resources from the VM. Each VM can run a different operating system. So just because you're running on a Linux box doesn't mean everything has to be Linux. It can be whatever would run on a real hardware. And so it gets its own RAM assigned to it. Each VM can also have its own virtual network interface card and virtual central processing units, as well as GPUs, actually. The resources are portions of the actual server hardware. Each VM can be started, paused, stopped individually. Why would you use a hypervisor? Well, you could buy dozens of machines or hundreds or thousands of machines, but some of them might be used heavily and some of them not so much. So this is by using it this way, you'll increase the hardware efficiency because you get more use out of every server, which is called a host in this. Enhanced portability, you can migrate your VMs. So you can move them around from machine to machine. I'll get into that a little more later. Improved security because of isolation of your apps and services. So instead of having one machine where you're running all these apps in one machine, and then say you have to reboot it or something like that, or it crashes, like I talk about the next line, then you don't have to worry about losing all the system and services. Each VM can run its own little world, independent of the other one. He doesn't care what happens. So that improves uptime, development and prototyping. So you can test out PC configurations virtually. So let's say you had a machine that you wanted to get for somebody, but you weren't exactly sure what the specs were. Well, you could buy the biggest, baddest machine out there and spend all kinds of money you don't need. And it's like, well, you know, that way you can grow into it. Or you can prototype it and see how much resources you need and then buy a machine with said resources. So that'll save you some money. And you can try different things and blow them away and try them again. It's really, really nice. You don't have to do it with real machines. Then you can expand the hypervisor pools by adding more hosts, and that offers the option for some higher availability. Also helps when you go to upgrade, you don't need to shut something down per se. You could move it to a different host in that pool, hypervisor pool of multiple hosts, and then upgrade one of the hosts or do maintenance on it, clean it, blow it out, whatever you got to do, and then put it back online, upgrade it, for example, and then move the virtual machines back to that host and then work on the next host and keep going. So XCP-NG's hypervisor, it comes from the Linux Foundation, the Zen project. And some of the project members include ARM, AWS, Amazon services, Citrix, and EPAM. It's based on Zen server and is the result of a massive cooperation between individuals and companies to deliver a product without limits, no restrictions on features, and every bit available on GitHub. So yes, this is open source. It's a turnkey open source hypervisor, in fact. It's free to download and use, and you can get pro support, which is optional and costs some money. That's how they make the money. Nothing's free, right? Well, it is until you need it. Pro support is very affordable when you compare it to things like VMware, which has increased its popularity of XCP-NG lately. So on the pro support, if you want that, the pricing is per host, not per socket or CPU or virtual or thread or core or any of that junk. There's no licensing fees. You're only paying for support. So you get standard support, $600 a year per host. You get 6 support tickets a year. So every other month, I guess. And they'll SSH, give you support, usually a business day response time. Usually they're pretty quick. So that's $50 a month per host. That's pretty darn cheap. And then if you want enterprise level, double that. And then you get unlimited support tickets. You get some direct access to some of the developers, and they'll help you with initial setup and upgrade assistance. Pretty sweet deal. So how do you use it? Well, you download and install it, the ISO, on any machine that's listed in their hardware compatibility list, or just try it out on pretty much any machine with the minimum of, they say multi-core, but you'd want at least 4 cores and at least 16 gig of RAM. You really want, I would say, 32. Otherwise, you're just basically not doing much more than you would if you did a type 2 hypervisor. Most machines I've used have, hundreds of megabytes or gigabytes. So it's really made for a server class machine. And of course, as modern day processors come up, that line gets blurred. So you can probably run it on a beefy desktop PC. So after it's loaded, then you can use X console locally, or the command line locally, or via SSH. The Windows GUI, which is called XCP NG Center, but that's a community supported product based off Citrix, and it's not officially supported by the VATES people, the people who work on XCP NG. They have their own thing called Zen Orchestra, and the beauty about that is it's a little virtual machine you can run, or physical machine, that runs the software and it orchestrates the pools. And because it's web-based, then you can run it on Linux, Mac, Windows, whatever. Very nice. Also, they have a light version, XO Lite, that they've been working on that should be out pretty soon. Zen Orchestra is the web-based GUI for XCP-NG. And for support, again, there's pricing for $0.99, aka free. You just get some basic features, kind of a taste of it. But you do get a 15-day premium trial with that, so you can test out all the features. Then $85 per month, you get the starter, which includes some full backups, auto updates of their software, security updates mostly, and then some remote assistance. $235 a month, you get enterprise, where you get some smarter backups, some access control list capability, some disaster recover options, and some remote assistance. And then for $600 a month, and this isn't per host, this is per per cluster, if you will, which can be multiple pools, multiple hosts. You get continuous replication, load balancing capabilities, and proxy things. So if you have a remote site, you can take advantage of that. And then another option is it's open source, so you can get it free from the sources. Of course, there's no support, and you have to build it and manage it yourself. And it's usually the bleeding edge, so sometimes things don't work. The previous version from like a week or two ago had some issues that I discovered, and then found out that they already fixed it like several days ago. So that's nice. All right. So if you want to open up the mic and if there's any questions, I can take those. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and take a look. All righty. So let's see, where do I want to go? Let's go to Firefox. And you're not seeing that. Hold on. Here you are. No, you're not. So let me share Firefox. There we go. All right. So Zen Orchestra. This is the dashboard. It tells me how many pools. I'm a poor man, so I only have one. How many hosts? Right now, I only have one. I do have 6 VMs though, and of my RAM, I have a wonderful amount, 256 gig on this box. and I'm only using 45 gig of that, so that's good. 10 virtual CPUs out of my 56 in the whole box being used, and 40 gig of my 16 terabytes, I guess I should say, terabytes of storage. No alarms, no one pending task, 3 users, and 4 running VMs. All right. What do we hit next? Okay, so I go home. Here I can work with VMs, my hosts, which are the servers, pools, which are a collection of servers. Now, them can be one server per pool, which is my case, but you can also have multiple pools. And the nice thing about Zen Orchestra is that you can just attach as many pools as you have. So very, very nice. And you can filter them out between, and it'll ask you what pool and stuff like that. It's really nice. And then templates. So there's some pre-installed templates, and then you can create templates, and then you can set up your storage. Right now, what we're seeing that I have these 4 running VMs. The filter that comes up is saying Power Straight running. So these are running VMs. Noticing that like 102 is not here. So I can just shut off that filter, and we'll see that 102 is not running. So I can just go ahead and start that. In a few seconds, it'll be up and running. Ta-da. Other things here, let's see, template. So these are templates. So these are different settings for the VM that they have set up ahead of time. So you just take your pick your template, add your ISO image to it, and go. I can show you that too. Host. Right now I just have the one host. These little hamburger menus, this will expand it. If I had a whole bunch, I can just hit this and it would expand all of them. You can put little tags in. So it's a Dell R30 for demo. Running 50, I got 56 cores or threads, whatever, total CPU count, 256 gig of RAM, and I'm running version 8.2 of XCP-ng. If I had multiple machines here, multiple hosts, only one of the pools would be a master. And that shows up here. It says I have 5 VMs and I could stop it. XCP-ng 821, in fact, and this is my RAM usage. Use 20% of my 240 gig that I have free, because of course the hypervisor is running one VM all the time called DOM0, which is, the hypervisor itself that keeps all this stuff running. I'm going to jump down and chat, see what the chat message is. Give me a second. I have not, Matt. I've not used their cloud version. This is like a cloud, in your lab or in your company. You kind of get your own lab, so you don't have to pay $1 million. All right, so those are the hosts. Then we have the pool, which contains all my hosts, which is just one. And it's more the rest of the information. Host, 6 VMs, 5 storage repositories. SR stands for storage repository, or disks. That's where your VMs run on. They split that disk up. We'll actually go there next. Storage. So here, locally, I have 16 terabytes or terabytes. And I could connect that to all the hosts. I can set it as my default storage repository, which I probably should do. Ta-da, it's the default. And ext, I'll get back to that in a second. So its size, the machine or pool that it's in, and ISO share. So these are a collection of my ISO images And I can show you that a little bit. This one's disconnected. That's why it's red. You have your virtual DVD drives and XCP and G tools. So when you create a VM, you want to install these tools so that it interfaces between the VM and the hypervisor, so it can see what's going on and tell it to start or stop or see what the stats are and such. So you want to do that whenever you build a VM. Self-service, so you could create it, you could set up some access control lists and share or give access to, like if you had some developers and you wanted them to play with certain machines or certain hosts or something like that, you can do that here. Backups, so in our backups, we have these backups set up, and there's all set up, almost everything in the here is unique ID based. So this is the backup number. So I can call this whatever I want. If I edit this, blah, blah, and save that, good old secret save at the bottom thing. And you know, the ID is the same, so the name changes. And if you look here, everybody gets the name automatically added to it. So it's just a, you know, pointer based lookup. This one's disabled. So for whatever reason, maybe I'm doing some experimental stuff or want to keep it, or I've had some issues or something like that. So you can disable or enable the backup schedule. You can go in here and set up the schedule. And what's really nice about this is, so can I make that bigger? Is when you, there we go. When you go into here, you can tell how many retention, how many backups to keep, month, day, and then it's nice here to show you in human terms what the backup time look like, because sometimes you'll click this and you'll accidentally leave. It's like, I don't want to start this at 4th hour, 5th hour, and 23rd hour. So it's nice to look at this. Nice feature. So here you set concurrency. So by default, it'll back up 2 things at once if you have multiple things in your VMs to back up. And you can tell it to time out after a couple of hours, or 1 hour, or however long you think it should go before it times out. You have the option of compressing that. If you, I think by default it's disabled. If you have compression on where it's going, then you probably don't want to try to double compress. But I don't, so I compress it. XCP&G has this ability for compression as opposed to gzip, which is a lot slower. So that's a good feature. You can do an offline backup, which will export the VMs without snapshotting them. They'll be shut down during the export. And when they're shut down and the backup is going, you cannot start it up. You got to wait for the backup to finish. So normally you want to do a snapshot and have that snapshot be the part that's backed up. And they also have a feature where you can back it up with memory. So if you're running a sensitive database or something and you can't just have it like, you know, look like it crashed, if you had to restore it, that's what it's going to look like. You can back it up with the memory. Of course, if you have a lot of memory, that's going to take a lot of time. So if you have a 16 gig VM, but with 16 gig of RAM, it's obviously going to take twice as long. So, well, maybe not quite as long because it'd be a little faster, but you know what I'm saying. All right, so those are backups. And then you can restore from here. And here's a list of your backups. And then based on that retention, if you go in here, you can see I have these various times of backups. And that's kind of nice because it shows you how big they are. So you kind of see how your stuff's growing, or if one's really, really small, all of a sudden, then either something happened or it's a bad backup. But this says that it's a full backup. Went to my slow backup remote. It's 2.1 gig in space and did it at this time. Now here, I actually brought it up where I can delete it. So I can do a little pruning. So I just clean that up and it'll clean that out. Says I have 6 backups of each of those, or at least I did. And I can refresh this list. And if you do set up things in a certain way, you can even do file restore as opposed to like the entire virtual machine. You can create a new backup by going here. You can either backup metadata or the VMs themselves. Metadata would be either the configuration of Xen Orchestra itself or the pool's metadata. So you can set that up. Cool. I don't know if it needs to be like that. We'll set that up. Where are you going to put it? So they call them remotes. So I only have the one backup remote. So I'll set that up. I don't need a proxy. Report on failure. What pool? Harvey. And schedule, add a schedule. I could keep 3 or 4 of these. Pool, data, backup. And then I usually put how many things I'm keeping. And so I can have that by default, it's, midnight every night. Set that up for 4, not 0. And a few minutes after. And that's set up. It's not enabled, but I'll go ahead and enable it, create it. And now that's added to my list. So I can start it. It's never been done. Start it. Are you sure? Yes. And that should only take a few seconds. Over here, kind of gives you a little, they call it notes, concurrency 1. If I do 2, it's going to take longer than if I do them back to back because I don't have, my backup is a Raspberry Pi. So it's pretty slow. How soon as the timeout, if I have compression or not. So it says that backup is completed. I can click on that and see what happened. This one says it's successful. You can see there's 4 of them. And this one was snapshotted, so it must have been running. This one was, this one was snapshotted. This one was not, because you don't see a snapshot in its history. So this one must have been down. That must have been the one I started when we did the demo. And this one was snapshotted, which means he was running. So how long it takes, how long it took, or how fast the backup speed was, how big the file is, how long it took. Usually the snapshots only take a few seconds, like 4 seconds in this case. And that's good information. Nothing failed, nothing was skipped, nothing was interrupted. That's good. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll go through here, like let's say I just want to see the web server backups. So I'll filter these out. So I just see those. And then I take a look at the transfer, how many gigabytes been transferred, and make sure that they're the same or growing. If not, then there's probably a problem. And then going through these also, just because it says successful doesn't mean there wasn't a problem. So I'll go through these pretty much daily and verify that there was no problems. I know one of these had a problem. Showing 10 at a time. I'm going to change it to 20. 50. There. Unexpected number of entries in its backup cache. And it tells you where it is. So that's nice. and how much, there was 6, it was expecting 7. So something wasn't there that it thought was supposed to be there. So I have multiple Zen orchestras that I'm playing with, so probably one, I deleted one out of the other, and since there's only one master of the cache, this path is apparently the same path that the other one is using, I'm guessing. Yeah, it must be, because this is the unique ID of that VM. And so anyway, so there's a little conflict there. So it just says, hey, you might want to clean up your virtual machine directory, and then this is the path, and or refresh this. You can just delete that cache file and hit refresh up here. Nope, sorry, the restore, and it'll rebuild that cache. All right. What else we got? Dashboard, there's this health feature, which is kind of nice. So it'll tell you your storage state, unhealthy disks, virtual disks, any orphaned items, anything attached to control domain. This is nice because back in Zen server days, you didn't know about this until you started running into problems, and your backups would give errors that said that you had too many snapshots, and then you all of a sudden your backups wouldn't work because it couldn't handle it anymore, because I think 30 is the maximum it can handle. So that one's warning me, so that's nice. So let's back up XOA to get updates. So if this was actually Zen Orchestra appliance, that's what XOA stands for. If it was actual appliance, then the updates, you could go there and you could just refresh and get an upgrade, and then it'll install the update and you're good to go. It's very, very handy, very easy. Check out your licenses. Well, this is the free source code based one, so I don't have that. Notifications of it and support. You don't have support, but hey, for a small fee, they'll help you out. Settings, servers. So when you set up Zen Orchestra, you got to tell it about what servers you have, and so you tell it what the master is, and you get connected to it, and then that's where he's able to do his job. You can set up users, you can set up groups, access control lists, remotes. This is where you would set up your the backup spaces. Like I said, I just have this Raspberry Pi set up, and so that's where my backups go. They call them remotes. Plugins, you get these plugins to do extended functionalities. Webhooks could be in handy, but a lot of these are not full versions yet. They're still considered experimental. They're not, at least version 1 yet. So you want to be kind of careful with some of these. Jobs. So you can set up jobs. These are cron jobs to do various tasks that you would maybe type in a command line. Haven't used that too much, but it's nice to have that, especially if you don't know how to set up cron jobs. This would be a lot easier. Hub, don't do with anything like that. We don't need proxies. About, this will tell you what Zen Orchestra commit I'm in the Git world. 5 version 110 of that and 112 of that. You can go to community and find out more things. These are tasks that are running. So let me go to backup. This is kind of nice. I'll just back up myself. So I'm going to back up this machine that we're on. So I'll take a little snapshot, and I won't really feel anything. If it do, it'll only be for a couple seconds. So let's go back to tasks. And now you see that it's doing a VM export, a Zen Orchestra based backup. It's a full test, name, and it's on this server pool, and it's 2% done already. And it also does this is really nice. You get it's when it started and estimated end time. So right now, it thinks it'll be about 7 minutes. Obviously, the more time elapsed here, the more accurate this will get. We're at 8% right now. And that's really a feature. Oh, I see we have chats. Hold on. All right, Matt says, when running your own data center, do you use hard drives and SSDs with smart monitoring, analysis, reporting, and technology? My home lab, if you're saying my home lab, I use hard drives and SSDs. They should be smart capable. I don't do a whole lot, I'm not production, so I'm not too worried about that. It should have that capability, that's fine. Yes, when things quit working, then I figure out what happened. No. I have some logs and stuff. At home, I don't really do a whole lot of that. Just
Well, that's
it can be
cool.
breakable.
So my follow-up to that question, Bruce, is if you're in a meeting and they're considering XCP versus something that costs more money and has salespeople that bring donuts, is there an off-the-shelf case like on the web, like why purchase XCP versus other things? Or have you been involved in any of those decision things? How's it go normally? This thing.
I have not in both instances where XCP-NG's been used or Zen Center, it was already there, and so I just use it.
That's awesome.
It just worked out that way.
So hey, while we're on
there's
a roll, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go.
While we're on a roll, let me ask you my other question, which is, you might remember my fondness for command lines, so
Mhm.
there's an API out there. I Googled that much, but when I tried to
Okay.
Google command line utilities, I didn't get very far. So I'll just straight up ask, if you gotta do something repetitive, stand up 40 VMs, is there a command line utility to do that? How do you do that kind of bulk maintenance?
Command line wise, you'd have to write your own script, but it's pretty scriptable. I mean, they're XE do something commands, and it's pretty scriptable. Zen Orchestra actually has that capability, so it'd be easier to do it with Zen Orchestra. Also, kind of cloud's part of the name, so it does cloud init stuff. So if you want to exercise the power that offers, you have that capability. Well, I got the screen up. I thought it was pretty awesome. You can only have 5 terabytes of RAM, so sorry. But I think that's a per pool or per host. It's probably per host. Up to 16 NICs, and as you bond them, then you can only have 8, or the combination of basically each 2 would count as 1, or each pair would count as against that. And then 288 logical processors. I think the highest, 96 per chip. So hyper-threaded, that's 190. 192. So double that. So yeah, might not. If this is current, this might not work with the very, 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 very highest end chips. That's interesting. But that's okay. My machine has, I think, 56 cores. So half of that is 28. So half of that's 14. So 14 cores per host. This is no way, because the DOM 0 needs more than that. So this might be older documentation. What else would you be interested in? The free, so Zen Server, Citrix Zen Server free edition only allowed you to have 3 hosts per pool. XCP, you can do 64. I think the most I've ever had was like maybe 12 or 14. Here's some features that are built in that may or may not be good. When you start using some of these things like USB pass-through or this, or this, you're kind of locking that VM to one machine, and then it becomes a problem when you start doing those upgrades and stuff, and you're trying to roll through the pool and have stuff move around. And you can't when you do some of these things, but it's in there. If you don't like it, pick it off. Wait a minute. Oh, this isn't a pizza. But the live patching's really nice, and then you can update your reboot if necessary. So just go to this page. This is org one. They have an org and a com. So the org one is the open source, and the com is, you know, where they want support, and they'll help you out. But it's just this easy. You just go here, get the latest ISO. You know, they show you how to DD it to a USB drive, and then you boot it up. And here's the SHA right on what the same page. You don't even have to go find the SHA to make sure that your download was good and not hacked. And yeah, we can use Rufus, I guess. And then what do we have here? Oh, some documentation. Documentation's actually pretty good here. This is for Zen Orchestra. And it's got a nice little search tool. So if I wanted to say, type in backup, and then it's got this. Okay. Oh, it's thinking. Thinking really hard. Anyway, it's got that Zen Orchestra installer. Hope you get that done. Community edition. Zoom club. All right. So let's go back to here. Oh, I was going to show you the task, and it's already done, isn't it? No, I showed you that. Yeah, because it was 8%. All right, so that's done. Let's go ahead then, and let's go to the VMs, and let's go ahead and create a new VM. And because it's aware of multiple pools, so that's which pool you want. Well, I only have the one. Grab a template. So let's say I want a Rocky 8 and Linux 8. I don't like spaces. Rocky Linux. Here we have spaces. Give it 2 CPUs, 8 gig of RAM. How do I want that divvied up? I'm going to give it 1 socket, 2 cores. What ISO we're going to use? We're going to use hopefully Rocky 8485. I don't know about 8.5. I'll use 8.4 right now. Network, what network do you want? I'm going to grab that one. I can add another interface if I want, multiple times. Go crazy. Then, but storage repository, my only one. It gives it a name for the disk. Disk 1, created by Zen Orchestra. 10 gig, that might be enough. Let's give it 14. And what's really nice is you want to usually go with the smaller amount, unless you know what you need. You want to go with the smaller amount, and then you can always grow it, right? So, and then let's take a look at advanced options. So here's where the magic happens, Matt. Let's see, I'm going to leave that alone. Multiple VMs. So it's going to take the name and start at 1 and give you 2 or however many you want.
Nice.
And then it's going to, I'll refresh this. There we go. U182, first index 1. There we go. Refresh that. So there's 81 through 86. Affinity host means which, if you have multiple hosts, which host do you want this to be on? It actually will do load balancing, and you can spread it out between multiple. So generally you don't select this unless there's a reason you need to, because you've locked yourself in because of the, USB pass through or the GPU thing or something like that. But generally you want to leave that alone so it can just go on whatever host has the best resources. It'll spread it out. I don't have a virtual GPU. You can do BIOS or UEFI. So that's good to go. I got to move my little Zoom thingy out of the way. All right, so 2 CPUs, 8 gig of RAM, 1 disk, 1 NIC, create. And da 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 da. I should be creating. Okay, it's still thinking. There, it's done. There you go.
Hey, Bruce, since we got a minute here, you got time for a couple more questions?
Of course.
Question number one, does it support, one of the things that ESXi and some of those other ones are working at adding is really just run containers and Kubernetes directly on it. Does Zen support that?
Sort of. It's not like Proxmox or EXS, the VMware thing. It has some capability and they're kind of adding it. So kind of. My thing with containers is if you're gonna do containers, I mean, it depends on your situation, but if you're gonna do a container thing, which is like this VM world taken to the next level, they're based micro VMs, then you generally have those doing more like AWS Lambda type things where they actually each have, an even more specific purpose. And so they do generally just one task or one small set of tasks. And in that case, I would not do this. I would do full on Kubernetes on bare hardware. And
okay, does it support full on Kubernetes on it natively, or do you have to create
you wouldn't use a hypervisor for that. You would use Kubernetes for Kubernetes.
So what he's saying is, like, I believe ESX7 supports Kubernetes natively. It'll just mix your containers in your cluster with your VMs all on the same hypervisor.
But anyway, they do, seems to be popular and wanted. If you don't have a lot of hardware, if you're not doing it big time, you just kind of need a few. They are working on that. So you can do that. But it's use regular hardware for pure OS, then you would use hypervisor for run VMs, and to me you would use pure on Kubernetes for Kubernetes, but that's me. Anything else?
That was the main ones. I'll get back to you. Something else.
All right. So
I actually got a couple of questions. My name's Mike. I'm a newer guy here. You were talking about backups earlier, and that's actually one of my pain points on my server at home is I don't really have VM backups. It's wonderful. I noticed that you're running all the slow kind of full backups. Is there a particular reason that you opted for that over the diff? I think they're called incrementals, the diff backups or things of that nature.
The cheaper version of Zen Orchestra, that's all you get. You have to go to Enterprise or Premium to do the fancier things. You can do that. Let me see here.
I mean, admittedly, not spending money is a good answer. So
no, you can do that. There's pros and cons. Basically, this is like the intro thing, so I was trying to keep it simple.
Sure.
But I do have on one of these boxes. And these are little nag screens you get reminding you that you're using the free version. So I do have a Delta. Oh, that's not the Delta. There's a Delta. So I do have that on one of my systems here. So it creates, so you can do it. You get these options here. You can do rolling snapshots, which just takes snapshot every so often. So that's pretty handy. Obviously, what's really cool about this, going back to the prototyping and testing, is you can snapshot and then play and then revert back to your snapshot, which, try and do that in the physical world. That's, a bit tricky. You'd have to pull the hard drive out, switch to another one or something like that. It just, this is really, really nice. But you can do these rolling snapshots. There's even something called continuous replication, where it takes that delta, not just puts it on a backup, it puts it on another machine. So you have multiple hosts in your pool, you can keep a continuous replication going where every hour, a couple of hours or whatever, you can have that delta moved over to that other machine. And you're basically got a near instant replicated VM ready to fire up should your other one disappear. So it takes it to that level, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, the rolling snapshot, we built something similar to that at my previous job in not hardware land, but it wasn't in the VM itself. It was in the file system level. So it's really because our actual backup solution only did full backups. And so restoring our backup took usually about a day. And so we just didn't. The snapshots were broken, and so we couldn't use those either. So we ended up doing something else. The dream was to use snapshots.
Yeah, no, snapshots are awesome when you're trying to do that situation, because then you can just take it and then you're not wasting the time pulling it off and wasting the time putting it back on. It's just, you just switch to it in a matter of seconds, you're up and going again. So doing rolling snapshots or delta snapshots, which they call continuous replication, is the way to go in that scenario, in my opinion. So let's go to I'm going to switch my sharing to actually, I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to share my desktop. All right. So I talked about using, if you use Windows, this was the GUI that you had to have back then. And I've gotten used to it. I really like it, but it's just different. I'll go back, I'll use either one just depending on what I'm doing, and which interface I kind of like better. But so here's, my I actually have multiple pools, but here's my host. And here's my VMs, and this time they were off. This is a snapshot. And here, it gives you that information in this method. A lot of people, like this, especially if they're used to Windows. This is more of a Windowsy look, if you will, which is really nice. It tells you the information, same as the other ones, just different layout is all. Really nice. You have notifications that alerts you to the processes that happened. Hey, I migrated this machine, backed up this machine, I took a snapshot of that machine. You can sort things by object. Let's keep going down my snapshots here. This tells me what my CPU information is for that Pop! OS box. Here's a look at the host, and towards the top here, it shows the whole black bar here is all the memory that I have available. I'm taking some for DOM 0. I've got whatever this is. I've got Pop! OS and some of these web servers sitting here, and how much RAM they take up. So that's kind of a nice visual. And then it breaks it down into further things. Here's 3 and 4. It's taking this much. These are shut down, so apparently it grouped it differently. So that's kind of nice.
You may not know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Sure.
as far as that RAM graph goes, something we noticed in is it vCenter? Is that it inaccurately shows how much RAM is actively being used on your hosts. So I'm very curious about that. So when you're talking about like, here's how much RAM is in use, is that here's how much RAM is actively being used by the OS or by the VM?
No, this is how much RAM has been partitioned to
allocated?
that VM. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
got it. Interesting.
So, yeah, so that's nice. Here's the storage on Harvey. At least at that time, I got some ISO. Okay, EXT, I didn't cover that. EXT versus LVM. LVM would be block based, so it'd be thick provisioned, whereas EXT is thin provisioned. So the VM will only take as much disk space as it's currently using. So similar to what you were saying with RAM, but this would be the disk side of things. So you can do iSCSI, you can do local EXT, you can do local LVM.
So that thick provision LVM bit, is that a limitation of the software? Because like LVM does support a thin provisioning.
I don't know. It's just they say if you do LVM, it's going to be block based, and so
Fair enough.
therefore it's thick. And if you do EXT, it's going to be thin. So I like thin.
Fair enough.
Then, so the network cards that are in that machine, my IP and setup here and DNS, little sidebar, 1113 and 1003. That is like the 1111, but 2 will block out malware and 3 will block out malware and pornography. So that's really good to have in a business and maybe at home. Just a little sidebar there. Here's a different view showing CPUs and kind of how much CPU usage at the time of this screenshot. Disks, network, IPs, uptime, and a kind of a holistic view. What are we doing here? Just looking at another machine. This one happens to have 4 CPUs. The storage says how much I used, that it's connected, which is always good. These are so looking at the storage, these are the VDIs that are on that storage, the little disk sections and snapshots. When you do a properties on a VM, this is what you get, which shows, the name, some tags, CPUs, also a different view of how it does the properties, boot options. Generally, I would say after you create your VM, you want to make sure the hard disk is at the top and probably even just shut off your DVD and network so you're not accidentally booting off something you didn't mean to. You can have these things auto start and start at in a certain order and wait so many seconds between them. So if you have something that needs to be running first before, like a database server, before you have machines that are going to try to talk to that database, you can offset them that way. You can set up alerts, based on higher than expected CPU usage or network usage or disk usage. Again, you can set it up to have it, they call it an affinity now, what server you prefer to have this machine on. Like I said, usually you don't want them, so it just bounces to whatever resources are best. There's a view of the memory, view of the storage on that VM. This one happened to have 2 disks, a 20 gig and an 8 gig, shown here. And the network and a view of the console. Nice thing about this is you get the option to scale it or to actually like full screen it and pull it out. Snapshotting, and then that's what it looks like. There's 2 views here. There's like a tree view in this view. So it shows you, hey, you had this web server, now you have the snapshot, which happens to equal now. You can go back to, and then you have now. You can go back to the snapshot just by clicking and say, restore to snapshot. It's got a little performance graph. Here, I used a bunch of CPU for a little while, then next to nothing. That's what I was talking about, the prototyping. You set up a VM and then you can watch it. It's like, oh, okay. So two CPUs are definitely all the more that I need for this machine. Here it used all the RAM that it could at the beginning. So this Mr. Mike is where it's showing, yes, I have 6 gig allocated right now, allocated. I'm only using, 1 or 2 here. And then some network bursts here and some disk bursts when it booted. Otherwise, it's been a quiet little machine. Because Linux is awesome and it caches and web servers cache, so there's not a whole lot going on there.
Hey, Bruce,
Yeah,
does it have the capability, does Zen server, either the free version or the commercial versions, have the ability to like do chargebacks and stuff like that, so you can figure out who's using what percentage of the machine and stuff?
oh, I don't know.
Okay.
That's a fair question. I don't know.
Oh,
You could, not that I've ever seen, but you could, you could,
well, you
You could
mentioned the
collect
tags
that
earlier, got me
information.
thinking about it.
yeah, you could probably collect that information. I haven't done the self-service and stuff, so I don't know if there's something in there. But that's an interesting question. Here's some templates, those templates, again, in a different, visual that it comes with.
Have you tried anything really exotic on it, like haiku or something, see how that works?
I have not.
Huh.
Now here, you can, instead of infrastructure view, you can look at object view, and one of the options in it will show your snapshots. So if you got some old snapshots, you don't, in my opinion, you don't want snapshots sitting out there for more than, a few weeks. You want to keep that clean, because when you get rid of a snapshot, then it has to coalesce everything back, into one disk and clean it up, take the frozen in time and what's changed and merge them together, and that can take some time. Also, you have a limit on these, because we used to run into errors because we were so overloaded on our machines where I was at before that the backups, couldn't get done, and it couldn't coalesce in time before the next backup happened. So it was pretty sad. Here I have way too many snapshots, but again, just for trying to show you guys stuff. Some virtual disks. So here's my ISOs. Oh, okay, good. Here it is. So here's where I'm showing the thin provisioning, which is all these top ones, because they're file-based, and then the block-based ones below, iSCSI. To be officially supported, they'll do these other things, but it's not like officially supported, so you're kind of on your own, including ZFS. I know Proxmox has kind of supported it, but you can do Gluster FS and CFS and whatever Moose is. I'm not familiar with that one. What? Did I say it wrong?
Moose FS.
Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, I'm just laughing at the name.
It's just a funny name. Yeah. So anyway, so you can do that. And then you want shared storage so that you can move your VMs from machine to machine without pulling the disk, copying the disk over first, because that'll take, a long time. So if you have it on shared disk, then you're just moving who's running it. And so basically in a matter of like 20, 30, 40 seconds, that VM can just move to another machine, at least on the older hardware that I'm used to. Newer machines might be able to do it a lot faster. But yeah, so this is a good little graph. Let's see what else I have. Nothing that includes that part. Let me go back to here we go. Nope, not that one. That one. Okay, cool. So what else do I have laid out here? Anything? Nope. There was something else. Let me look at my notes. Yeah, so Zen Orchestra, a single interface to multiple XP pools or Zen Center. It'll still support like Zen back to 6.5, I think. It's CentOS base. It's not exactly CentOS. In fact, there was something that I saw where they were talking about how one of the latest patches they already implemented 4 years ago when everybody else should have, but didn't. So they didn't have to patch. They did have to patch it for the AMD processors, but not the Intel one. They already implemented it. But basically, it's based off of CentOS, so it's pretty solid. You know, maybe a little older, but it's, you know, proven. And so for production, that's great. Yeah, snapshot, play, and revert. It's a really nice feature with hypervisors. And then you can easily grow your disks. A virtual CD. So if I go to a VM and I go here, yeah, and go to the console screen. See, it's got this disk already loaded and it started it up and asked me to install it. And then I can eject that virtual CD, DVD, whatever. I can SSH to the machine as root or SSH as somebody else. If it's one of those other machines, I can use this, whatever that means. Joking. And up here we got CPU usage, a little graph, a little RAM, network, and disk. Here it says stop, reboot, migrate, take a snapshot, export, and copy. Networking, here's your network stuff. You can add another network right here, network card if you need to. Here, disk, you can add another disk if you need to, or grow it. So it's got to be stopped. So I'll stop it. And then right now it's 14 gig. So here, you know, if you use LVM on this machine, then you can, of course, expand that as needed. So he stopped. So I go in here, change him to, let's say 18. Think about it, done. 18 gig. And then I can start him right back up. Snapshots. So I can take a new snapshot or snapshot with memory now that he's kind of running. Let's see how far along he is. He's already at that point. So go to snapshots and boom, you just take snapshot. There, got a snapshot. Go over here, break it, go back over here and revert to snapshot. Let's see, is that the right one? Come on, review to the snapshot, boom. So go to the snapshot before. Ta-da, now I'm back where I was. Maybe. Oh, now I am. And there I am. So, wow, whatever mistakes I made are gone. And-
Yeah, you're 20.
and that-
Bruce,
and that mean that- Yo,
so you've spun up 6 machines.
Yep.
And they're all waiting for input.
yep.
Can you control all of them at once?
Does that bother your OCD?
No.
A little bit, it does, don't lie.
I mean,
I lost you. I can't hear you.
what I was thinking is like cluster SSH where you can control multiple machines at once.
Now I can hear you.
Oh, my internet connection is unstable, apparently.
Oh.
I'll
So
try not to
repeat
stretch
your
the
question.
technology. The question is, can you control multiple installs at once like cluster SSH? You only issue it once and then the rest of them do your bidding. I know
via cloud,
unattended, yes, but
right. So you would use Cloud Init for that? Or run scripts? So well, let me go to this one. So yeah, so if I go to new VM and create on that pool. So when you do your whatever, so you can do this Cloud Init stuff on some of these templates. And so you would set it up and you can set your keys and run your configs. And so it'll do a lot of that. Otherwise, the templates that they give you, are the generic templates. So what I do is after if I know I need a set of machines, I probably wouldn't do it this way. I would probably, at least not yet, I would build the machine and go in here, build the machine how I want it. I want all of them, kind of a generic one. And so I'd get it all set up. I'd load the XCP and G tools so that it knows how to interface between, the internal VM and the hypervisor. And then, set it all up as much as possible in a generic manner, and then create it as a template. And then when I make a new VM, then the template I'll use will be that template that's been, if I did that, pop. Thought I had one in here. I know I made one. It might be on one of my other. Instances.
That's okay. We know it's in there.
It's on one of these.
We believe you.
Okay. But anyway, you would do that, and then that way you've already got 90% of it done or 99% of it done. Then all you have to do is set up what that host name is.
Mhm.
And whatever that makes that machine unique, and that's all you got left to do. Looking back at my notes, what else? I think I've covered all the things that I've written down.
Cool.
I don't have multiple hosts, so I can't show you the migrating, but you just basically drag it. Or in the Windows interface, you can drag it. Here you have to tell it, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just take it and then you just migrate it and just say, hey, where do you want to go? What storage repository do you want it to put in? Is there any change on network? And the newer releases, they actually have something too called warm migration, which is really good for old to new. That's only part of the premium package though. And I haven't played with it in the free package, which pretends to be premium. I haven't played with that yet because my old Zen 6 server's been defuncted a long time ago. So, is there anything else in here? Oh, you can set things on like, to have it auto power up. You can even put protection so you don't accidentally delete it or accidentally shut it down. It'll ask you. Sometimes it asks you. You got to be careful. Sometimes it asks you, and it's like, okay, you don't need to ask me, and then you hit stop here. Well, it'll shut it right down. Unless you do the accidental shutdown thing. So let me turn that on. I don't know if I have to hit save somewhere. And then I hit stop. Okay, it asked me. I don't know if I have to do more. Oh, it says no, blocked, operation blocked. So if I turn it on, this feature, it kept me from accidentally shutting it down. You can pause the machine, suspend it, force a reboot, force a shutdown, and convert it to a template. Yeah, so once you build it, you just convert it to a template, and then you're just able to import it like any other template, or remove it completely. It's like, okay, I'm done playing with this. I want to throw it away. So I like to shut those off. Video RAM, little bit, a lot more little bits. UFI, add some custom fields. Yeah. Anyway, it's like I said, we're using it in production, so it's not a play toy, although you can play with it, of course, and I encourage you to do so. But anyway, I like it.
Cool.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Clap, everybody.
Bravo, bravo.
Any other
Great
questions?
job, Bruce.
Thank you.
We haven't heard from Rob. No questions from Rob.
I just typed in a few, I think. Does it have an API? Yes, it does. And they're constantly working on stuff. Those guys are just keep going and going. He's in a furnace room. The wife has relegated him to the furnace room. Production sites usually use dedicated servers. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You put your ZFS on an actual machine that's made for it, and then set up your smart monitoring and scrubs and all that ZFS fancy cool stuff. But ZFS is not officially supported. That's only as a local thing. You know, your remote storage, that's fine. You can do what you want. Okay. I don't know if there's any other questions here. I should see. Yeah,
I wasn't
bring
getting
that
chat
data.
notifications at all. There's all these great questions in here that I didn't see. Oh, Rob's in a noisy furnace room. That's why we couldn't hear from him.
All
Is
right.
that your timeout, Rob?
Is this is there really a chat GPT thing next session? Or is somebody making that up?
You want one back?
Hang on a second. I shut down my browser to kind of prevent any more
Hiccups?
stuff. Let me double check the spreadsheet to see if it's been updated.
Thanks for your questions, Mike.
He's over there. That's Mike.
Hey, Mike.
All right. OLUG schedule was last updated March 6th. Hang on, I gotta pick a year.
Using AI?
Using AI. It is a panel. Look at that.
Use on the panel.
It has no one confirmed as of yet. By the way, look, we're going all the way back to 2013. This is like a 10-year-old spreadsheet. Although
Yeah,
I
we're
don't know where
supposed to maintain that.
2015 went.
Here's the way Dave just updates the date. Yeah, 2020, he just turned it to 2021. I think I'd get it 2020.
No, that's true. I see. Well, hopefully you can join us next month when we'll have a panel of distinguished OLUG people. So thanks, everybody. Oh, you're going to show something else, or are you shutting stuff down?
Well, yeah, RGT had something here about how you see the console and stuff. So you can see it this way, and then you can hit this little button over here to hide some of the excess stuff here, and then adjust, size.
Bigger. Oh, nice.
And then, but not just the VMs, but also the hosts. So you can go to the console of the hosts and do the same thing. Oh, and then actually, let me get into this one here. And then this XS console, since I talked about it, this is what you'll be greeted with on the machine itself when you bring it up. That lets you do a lot of this. Not everything, probably. Yeah, you probably have to go to command line. But this is what you get when you bring up the machine, and then you can set up your virtual machines. I can get a list of the virtual machines. Right here.
Kind of like a BIOS.
Yeah, I mean, in curses style of menuing, whatever, but it's kind of handy. Then of course you can go to command line and
Yeah, it's difficult for us to see on the projector screen, but I can see it on
Oh.
my screen. It's just really small text.
yeah.
Don't worry about it.
All right. And then this up here is telling me that there's a problem, probably some patches, so I can go to patches. Or that it's not supported. Sometimes they say that when you're not paying support. They put these little, but there's nothing. Okay, so there's no patches right now, but the patches will be right here, and I can apply them here or just do a simple yum update because it is CentOS based. Using their repository though. Okay, I'm really done.
Cool. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful March, and we'll see you in April.